Get the fuck up. Simon says, get the fuck up. Throw your hands in the sky.
The next question is, what is more significant for hypertrophy, exercise selection or the way the movement is executed?
If you can't execute it properly, I don't care what selection you use, it's a total waste in my opinion. The biggest benefit's gonna come from properly executing it. Once you nail that, then I would say, you know, start playing with the exercise selection. But I mean, you can have all the variety in the world, but if your training is crap in terms of execution and you're not training the muscle effectively, who cares?
Can that become, I'm trying to think of where they're coming from with this question. Can that become overanalyzed as far as the exercise movement from a technical standpoint? In other words, you know, you have a group that the muscle needs to be exercised to the greatest range of motion possible for it to technically be correct. And then another group that says, just bench to your chest to back up.
You know, if you feel the muscle working and you get a pump, to me, I think you're on the right track.
Okay. So
I guess I don't get over technical with stuff.
yes.
You know, like if you're training your back and at the end of the day, you don't have a pump in your back, you're probably executing stuff poorly. You know, you need to work on actually feeling it before we start getting fancy with exercise selection.
I think you make a good point there too, because I think with that being said, even with those that may tend to make things more complicated than they need to make it, you still have to get that first part right. You still have to know that you're feeling it in your back before you start saying, well, you need to twist your thumb or, you know, put your tongue on the lip of your, on the top of your mouth or whatever it is. You still need to have some basic feel in the body part first before getting into all the fancy things. Maybe they're skipping that.
Yeah.
You know, that they see somebody that's over technical saying it has to be done this way, which maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, maybe science shows it, maybe it doesn't, but it's not what everybody else is typically doing. But if they don't feel it in their triceps doing it the first way,
right?
You know, the old school muscle and fitness books,
yeah,
you know, then it's not going to matter what they do with their thumbs or pinkies or anything else if they're not getting that basic movement performed correctly. So, but I do agree that I think that doing the movement correctly is more significant, and I would even apply that to powerlifting. How long after a meal should I wait to train?
I think everyone's digestive system is different. For me, it seems that it takes me longer to digest a meal. So I typically don't have like a whole food type meal for 3-4 hours before I train. But I also live on plasma, which totally fuels the workout. And some of my workouts are first thing in the morning, and that's all I have. Maybe a cup of coffee and then I'm drinking plasma. And I actually prefer training early simply because I don't have a meal in my stomach. I don't know that there's a master, you know, time frame that fits with everybody. I would say, you know, if you're training legs and you feel like you're gonna puke up your tuna fish sandwich, you are training too close to your last meal.
I've always been the opposite, coming from a different sport. If I didn't have food in my stomach, I never felt like I could train effectively. And even had people tell me, well, you're not going to recover because, you know, your body's going to be focused on digestion instead of putting blood into the muscle. And I was powerlifting, so I really didn't care. As long as the weight went up, I didn't care where the blood was going, you know. But I think everybody is individual with that, and they'll figure it out pretty quick. If you eat too close to your training and you're throwing up, well, then that's probably a pretty good indicator that you're eating too close to your training. If you're starving through your whole training, I think they can figure it out pretty much on their own.
Right. I mean, yeah, you don't want to be starving throughout your workout. To me, plasma covers that. So I just don't want to be nauseous from what I ate.
Should I lift with as much volume and frequency as I can recover from, or just enough to see a benefit?
It kind of plays into the larger picture of what you're after, I guess. I would say, if you could train with an insane amount of volume and frequency and recover, if you don't want a life, go for it. Be in the gym 24/7, I guess. But most people have a job or a relationship that they care about and want to spend other time, doing other things other than lifting. So from that standpoint, I would say, get the benefit from it. And after that, really, what's the point? Unless you don't have anything else in life going. And I guess secondarily, you may want to bump that volume and frequency if you're recovering, if you're, say, training for a contest or something, because you're burning more calories and aiding your metabolism potentially to a point. There's a limit and diminishing returns if you're doing it for hours and hours a day.
I'm going to add to this real quick. Are you defining what benefit is? So when I see a question such as this, should I lift with this much volume and frequency as I can recover from, or enough to see the benefit? What benefit? What are you quantifying as the benefit? Is it strength? Is it muscle size? How is it being quantified? And I can go on from the strength standpoint and talking about, different exercises to be able to use as indicators. But if they're a bodybuilder going about that, what indicators do you use, or were you using coming up to see if you were actually benefiting and getting better?
Yeah.
Was it tape measure, body fat, or just how you looked?
I mean, I always weighed myself. I often did body fat measurements, tape measure for given body parts, and they're all okay indicators, but at the end of the day, look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Like, when you get on stage, nobody's going to ask you what do your biceps measure, or what your body fat percent is. If you're shredded and you're in shape and your arms look bigger than what they really are, that's going to do you more good in bodybuilding. Powerlifting obviously would be different. It's less subjective, and you're not creating an illusion that you can squat 1,000 pounds.
Exactly.
You either do it or you don't.
Yeah, nobody asks the powerlifter, to see their abs when they're on the platform, and nobody asks the bodybuilder how much they can bench when they're on stage.
Right.
So just quantify the benefit and use that to make sure that there's progress. With a lot of intermediate lifters and younger lifters, one of the biggest mistakes that I see, if they have no way of quantifying if they're getting better or not, so they get frustrated because they're not getting better. And then I'll say, well, what are you using to quantify it? And they can't answer the question. Yeah. So of course you're going to be frustrated because you don't know if you're getting better or not. Right. So that we'll conclude with that.